Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Morning.
You can see we're struggling just a little bit with some of our technology this morning. I'm supposed to have a green light back there that I don't have yet, but that's okay. We're going to go ahead and get started anyway. I'd like at this time to call our Nash County Commissioners meeting to order for March the 6th, 2023. It is customary for us to begin our meetings with a prayer by a sitting commissioner. And during this time that we as commissioners stand and have this prayer, you're welcome to stand and join us if you like. You're welcome to use this time for your own prayer or a moment of silence, whichever you have on your heart this morning. Of course, I would ask that all devices be cut off at this time if you could. One time ringing is okay. Second time it rings, we'll call you out by name if I know who you are. But just kidding with you on that. But at this time, and then we'll have a pledge of allegiance by Commissioner Outlaw. And at this time, I'll call on Fred Belfield to do our prayer. Fred?
Those all stand. Sweet hour of prayer that calls me from the world of care and bids me at my Father's throne, make all my wants and wishes known. In seasons of distress and grief, my soul has often found relief, and all escape the tempest near. By thy return, sweet hour of prayer. Our Father, we come today for our regular monthly meeting, thanking you for this day, thanking you for all the blessings that you have bestowed upon this board and each individual and the citizens of Nash County. We pray, Father, that the decisions that we make will be pleasing in thy sight and will also be helpful to the citizens of Nash County. We pray for our county. We pray for our state. We pray for the United States of America and also the world. There are many challenges in the world today that we face. And we know, Father, you can lead us and guide us in solving whatever challenges we have before us. The blessings we ask in your name. Amen.
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 Would you join us in the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Commissioners. We're now on item number 4, which is approval of the regular meeting minutes for the month of February. We had one meeting, which was February the 6th. I'd entertain a motion for corrections, additions, or approval as written at this time.
Move approval as written.
Motion by Commissioner Belfield. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Outlaw. Questions on that motion? Seeing none, all in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed by a like sign. Minutes stand approved. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Next item on the agenda is public comment, and this item is on the agenda each month, first meeting, to allow any citizens that wishes to bring an item before the Board of Commissioners that is not otherwise covered on the agenda. We welcome you to come up and let us know what you have on your mind. If it is on the agenda or a public hearing, we would ask to you wait until we get to that item, and we would be glad to call on you at that time. There is a sign-up period out front up to the time the meeting starts. I didn't have anyone to sign up this morning. Did someone miss the part you needed to sign up? And if so, the board would be glad to hear from you. Just come forward and state your name and address for the record. Anyone wishing to speak this morning? Seeing no movement, we will move on then to item number 6. And it's my pleasure to be able to give the State of the County address for 2022 at this time. And I will actually walk over to the podium if that's okay, and we'll do that address as quick as we can. To get me started right, I'm going to do it one more time. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Thank you all. On behalf of the Board of Commissioners, I'm very pleased to give this great state of Nash County And that's not great state, that's the great state of Nash County for year 2022. Year 2022 was a much brighter year for the people of our county and our nation as we began to recover from the last 2 years of COVID-19. Is it gone? We all know it's really not gone, but we are much improved and come away with a lot learned. Quite a bit learned, quite frankly. Our staff has done and is still doing a great job of keeping Nash County open and running through COVID, and we wish to thank each and every one of them for the part that they played in doing this. I have done my best this morning to shorten this address from years past because my board has asked that I do that, but I do want you to understand by shortening it, I will be leaving out quite a bit of great stuff. Quick review. We completed our first full year with our new manager, Ms. Stacy Satzler, who accepted the job 12/15 of 2021. Our board has completed our year-end review of our new manager and feel it was a very positive review. We hope she feels the same way. Believe me, working for the 7 of us can be very challenging at times. You don't need to nod your head, Madam Manager. But I will invite her to expand on that under her manager report that comes a little bit later in the meeting if she disagrees with that statement. We have also had 3 other department heads change in 2022. Mr. Tony Cameron, a former employee of our sheriff's office, was selected by our manager to be the new emergency services director after the retirement of Brian Brantley and the promotion of Scott Rogers. Mr. Chris Carey, a former employee of our sheriff's department, also was selected to be our first safety and security officer. Cole Strickland was selected to be our new resource conservation director. And Major Alan Wilson was promoted to be our new chief deputy in our sheriff's office. As mentioned, Mr. Rogers, former EMS director, was chosen to be our new assistant county manager by our new manager. We certainly welcome all of those aboard, and I'm sure they each do a great job. In all, in 2022, we employed 108 new full-time employees came to work for us, and we had 103 full-time employees to leave Nash County. And by far, the majority of those were leaving for retirement. Our financial condition, which we are always pleased to present to our citizens, our fund balance in its entirety is $56,800,000. Our general fund balance is $41,028,000, and our unassigned fund balance is $28,212,000. That puts Nash County in great shape, believe us. We also have something we watch as a Board of Commissioners, a very balanced expenditure. Education received 23.8% of our funds expended in 2022. Our human services received 24.2%, and public safety received 29.5%. Total, those 3 divisions received 77.5% of the expenditure for 2022. Other divisions, which are 5, received 22.5%. Our collection rate, which our board is very proud of the staff that looks after our collection rate, again is over 99%, which is 99.09% for 2022. And another thing this board is very proud of, we still maintain our tax rate at 67 cents, which is the 13th year that we have done that. Highlights for revenue in 2022, sales tax was up a little over $3 million, which was 16%. Our property tax was up $718,000, which is 1.3%, and our real estate transfer was up $153,000, which amounted to 30%. Total tax revenue increase for 2022 was 3.9%. And the county received another completely clean audit with no findings. We thank the finance director and her staff for what that report looks like each year. We'll move on to our grants. Newly secured grants in 2022 were a little over $7 million. Previously awarded grants that we are now spending was another $5.2 million for a total of $12.3 million for 2022. In addition to that, of course, we are still working through our American Rescue Plan funding, which was $18 million. And in addition to that, we received another very large grant for our water systems, which was the North Carolina Department of Environmental Quality, where we received $12.7 million grant to spend on our water systems throughout the county. In all total, that was $30.7 million in grants that we received or were working on spending in 2022. Grand total of $43 million. And that's strictly amazing to me. There's a lot of money out there to be obtained, and I think Nash County is doing a great job, as we always have, and it's helping us get a lot of things done, quite frankly, and allows us to keep those tax rates, that tax rate where it is. Just briefly on the grants, I would just say grants secured in 2022, $7.1 million. Grants administered in 2022, $5.2 million. And we also applied for another couple of grants that amounted to about $38 million that we were not successful on. One of them was a very large grant to build a new junior high in Nash County, but we will have another opportunity to apply for that later in this year. That comes from your lottery fund if any of you happen to play the lottery, and we hope we're successful on that, because that is how we were able to build the new elementary school at Red Oak. Economic development. Year 2022, we consider, is the year that our county-based economic development department became whole and fully staffed and operational. The results are simply amazing. We also got our Alliance Board established and met twice thus far, including a tour of all our county properties. If you recall, we had for many years been involved in a partnership with Edgecombe County and the city of Rocky Mount, and prior to that time, we always operated as a county department, and we returned to that about three and a half years ago to a county department. And it takes a while to get that going, but they have done amazing stuff each year. But it is now fully staffed, and in addition to that, we have appointed members as the Board of Commissioners to serve on a board to help facilitate that operation. And as I said, we have met twice already, and we'll be meeting again the latter part of March. At the year end of 2022, our scoreboard was as follows. Announced projects, brought jobs, 330 jobs. New investments of $55 million. Under contract, we have an additional 579 jobs and new investments of $50 million. The other category that the Board of Commissioners gets updated on each month is the active projects being recruited. There are a total of 88 of those. And of course, recruiting means everything from a phone call to a meeting, us going to see them, whatever it takes. And we certainly are not able to capture all of those. If we did, I'm not sure what we would do with them, quite frankly. But the active jobs were 88, active projects were 88. The jobs amounted to 38,000, and the investment will be 19 million. So it shows Nash County is getting looked at quite a bit. Our residential construction also continued to do very well during 2022, as we had 467 new homes built in the rural part of Nash County. And the rural part is everything but the city of Rocky Mount, because we do not issue their permits. In the city of Rocky Mount, they had a total of 120 new homes built on the Nash side. Therefore, there are 587 new homes that were built in Nash County in 2022. That is down a little bit from last year, which was 643 new homes in the county, or about 10%, but we all know what happened to the housing market earlier part of the end of last year, or about midsummer, and how rates started to go up. But I'm still very proud of what we were able to do, and quite frankly, as our report at the end of our commissioners meeting under commissioner reports, we had a great month again in February with a little over 50 new home permits issued for the county, and that's just in the county. Moving on to capital projects, which is an area that we do very well in also. And I would just say this list that we're going to go through very quickly is simply amazing. What makes it amazing is we are doing so much for our citizens and yet maintaining that 67-cent per 100 tax rate. Never in the history of Nash County have we been doing near the dollar volume of capital improvements that we are presently doing. The flow of grant funds from federal and state dollars has made this possible, of course. But let me tell each one of you present today and our citizens and everyone in the county, no other governmental unit gets more done per dollar for capital projects than we do here with our employee team assigned to capital projects. A quick summary of some of those projects are the Charters of Freedom, which I hope all of you have visited, was completed in 2022. What we have in progress is Central Nash Water District Wastewater System Study. We have Northern Nash Water System District Water System Study. We have the Southern Nash Wastewater Merger and Regionalization Feasibility Study, and what that is hopefully to solve some sewer issues down in the southern part of the county. The Northern Nash Water System Phase 1B is moving forward and will be under construction pretty soon, and that ties in some wells to our Northern Nash Water System. And then the Northern Nash Water System Phase 2 project, which is estimated to be about $18 million, has been designed at the present time, and I actually think we have on our agenda a little later an engineering request to approve the contract for our engineers to keep moving forward with that. Of course, I think we all know that the Nash County Detention Facility renovation and expansion is underway. That is about $20 million that the board has financed, and it has gone, I think, pretty well. I'm not sure the people and Mr. Boone and his staff that's looking after it agree with that, but it's been done pretty quietly and is on schedule, and I think we'll be utilizing some of that facility. It's done in 3 phases in the next probably 30 to 60 days. If you come up the Roundabout Avenue, Eastern Avenue between Nashville and Rocky Mount, you will see the Pet Connection Center, which was a $2.6 million project being built, and that's something that the county very sorely needed. We were very fortunate to get a donor to help fund that project, and it's moving along, and a little bit later on in this late spring or early summer, we will be having a ribbon cutting for that facility. And of course, it's located adjoining Nash Community College and will be tied in with their vet tech program, and it's just going to be a great win for all of us, quite frankly. The Dorchester Sewer System Rehabilitation Project was done with some grant funds as well, and what it consisted of, that is a pretty old system, and we just went in and hopefully bought a number of years moving forward by renovating some of the things and pumps and pipes and so forth that were involved in that. The Central Nash Water System supply wells we are looking at, and that would be putting some groundwater in our system in Central Nash as well. And then, of course, the Middlesex Corporate Park will be doing the infrastructure for Phase 2. And we will also, in the Middlesex Industrial Park, be constructing our second shell building. The first shell building has been occupied, and that's one of 3 shell buildings that we'll be working on moving forward. The 97 shell building, which is somewhere between a $5 and $8 million project, we'll be moving forward with. And the Nashville Business Center shell building, which we will join together with the town of Nashville, and the county will be funding the shell building that we'll be putting in out there, and of course the town of Nashville will be doing the site work for that. We have just learned that shell buildings are the way to go. The world moves so fast now. To get people to look at you in economic development, you kind of got to have your sites, you got to have the sites ready, you got to have utilities there. And now we're in a phase, as Randy knows, I'm sure, that you almost have to have a shell building set in there to gain interest and to stay on the list to bring a new industry to your county or town, whatever it is. We also have a couple of pending studies, which is the Northern Nash Water System District wastewater study and the Central Nash Sewer System wastewater study. That is a great list of capital projects, and I just want to thank the staff and there's many people involved in those, from the grant department to engineering and administration, that just do a great job and allow us to do so much with the dollars that we received. Moving on to miscellaneous items. We have completed our plan covering how we will spend our $18+ million coming from our ARP funding to Nash County. We are very pleased to announce all of our funding will be used for one-time expenditures. That was this board's goal, was to make sure we use those funds, which are not reoccurring, on items that would have a one-time cost for them and would not be used for things like adding employees or whatever may have a reoccurring cost. Our comprehensive pay plan that we spoke about last year has been completed, and quite a few of our employees did receive a addition in pay because of this plan. The board was glad to undertake this plan. It's something that we need to do ever so many years, as recommended by staff, to make sure we keep our employees in tune with what the market allows counties to pay. We have great employees, and we certainly want to keep all of them. We continue to see a record amount of DOT funding been spent in Nash County. And Mr. Mitchell, we certainly thank you for your part. Melvin Mitchell, our DOT representative, is with us this morning. And the projects you see is Sunset Avenue, Old Carriage Road, Gold Rock Interchange, and you'll just be beginning to see the work start at a roundabout on 64 East ramp down to Bivenu Road. Never in my time in Nash County, which I won't reveal how long it's been, but it's been a very long time, have we seen the amount of DOT funds been spent that we have here today going on. We may not always understand what's going on, but believe me, when it all gets finished, it'll make sense, it'll keep traffic moving, and I think we'll all be very happy, as we were with the first roundabout we had in the county out by the back entrance to Nash Community College. I remember how our citizens reacted to that to start with, but once they got used to it, it was a great thing. Once we got it lit properly, the complaints went away, and believe me, it doesn't make you sit there for anything. Everybody keeps moving in a very safe manner, and we appreciate all the work been done to improve the roads in Nash County. We are also currently in the process of completing a countywide reval of all real property. As we know, this has been done a year early because our values have raised to a point where the state required us to do it after 7 years rather than our normal 8-year cycle. We did appeal that request, but they came back a second time and told us we needed to do it because our values just were not current. The last time we did a reval, we were very nervous because we were in a declining market, and quite frankly, we weren't sure what it would look like, but it wasn't as bad as we felt like it would be. But we did come out with almost no gain in total assessed value. This time, I think we will see a significant increase in our values, which will allow us to look at our tax rate very carefully, and I think this board will certainly be doing that. Keep in touch with us as you get your revals. If you have issues with it, contact our department. We have employed a firm to do that for us. They'll be the first people that would review it, and then it will go to some of our staff members and may end up with the state getting involved in it, but the final call, I think, comes to this board, and we're hoping that all appeals are resolved prior to coming to us, because we have people much better qualified to do these appeals working on this than what we would do, but of course we'll be accepting their guidance as we move forward. The county, I'm very pleased to say, will be beginning its 15th Citizens Academy on March the 21st of this year. And I would invite you or any of your friends that have any interest in county government to take the time to attend one of those academies. I think I read recently we had maybe at least 3 of our commissioners that have been through that academy in earlier years. and we get quite a bit of our appointed people to go on our various boards through that academy process. In 2022, the county was able to complete its new land use development plan after an 18-month process with much involvement from the public. We concentrated on preserving our agriculture background while at the same time preparing our county for future residential growth coming our way from Johnson and Wake County. We were very pleased to get that done, and I think we ended up with a plan that the board pretty much all bought into, and I hope the majority of our citizens did it as well. The board also, during 2022, approved a new EMS shift change with some 12-hour stations for the first time ever. We were on a 24 on, 24 off schedule, which we were told was a little short time, since they worked 24 hours, they needed more time off. The new schedule will give them 2 full days off in between. And in our busiest stations, we look very hard at going to 12-hour shifts rather than 24-hour shifts, and we'll be doing some of that as well. We continually, I promise you, work diligently to provide an acceptable speed internet service to all citizens in Nash County through our partnership with Cloudwise. This will be a combination of wireless system as well as fiber systems. We are making progress. It's a lot slower than this board would like, but when we read, everybody has the same issue. It's a very expensive item to do in rural areas because of the number of households that were served. But it is the commitment of this board to keep working on it until we get each and every one of our citizens with a speed that will allow them to do the things they need from home, whether it be kids or whether it be workers from home in every household in the county. Our employee, through our ARP funding, did receive some hazardous pay for their work through COVID-19. We were very pleased as a board to be able to do this for our employees. As we said earlier, we did not close any department. We stayed open, and I think we did a great job of keeping the county going during the last couple of years in some very challenging times. The long-anticipated demerger, and I don't quite frankly like the word demerger, but that's been the name that has been tagged to it, but what it is about our school systems took a major step forward with the vote by Edgecombe County Commissioners to take all kids living in Edgecombe County back into the Edgecombe County school system. That will begin in year 2025. This will be approximately 1,800 children that will leave Nash County school system and return to the Edgecombe County system that live in the city of Rocky Mount on the Edgecombe side. We continue to try and negotiate a new lease with our county-owned hospital. This has proven to be very difficult, and we may need, I feel like, to look at other ways to receive a fair return on this very valuable asset that the county does own, which is Nash Hospital. UNC Nash Hospital, as it is named today. Very recently changed on that. And our award-winning senior center and our recreation department continue to do very well. A recent call from our citizens for expansion of the senior program and the number of participants in all of our sports certainly show us that they are doing great work. In our recreation, for instance, I asked Thomas to give me some numbers, and we had a total of 5,538 people to participate in our recreation programs in 2022. In year 13, we started with 1,585. We didn't have a recreation program just a very few years ago, but it has grown each year except for year 20, caused by COVID, but the numbers continue to climb, and I certainly want to thank, because this is something that I came on the board wishing for us to do, for the job that recreation has done to give our kids in rural Nash County something of structure to do, which we all know if they have things of structure to do, they more than likely be less likely to do things that we may not be desired to do. So I just want to thank that staff at Recreation for the great job they do. Our senior center, we have a total of 1,438 members presently. The Nash, which is located next door here, 982 people are members of that, and the Southern Nash Senior Center is 456. I was a little tickled to learn in the report that the staff gave me and prepared me for this, that the most attended program at the Nash was Exercise to the Beat. I don't know if you've ever watched a video of that, but I invite you to go to our website and do that sometime. And the most attended program, which is probably suit me better at Southern Nash Center, was bingo, quite frankly. We all have our challenges, as we all know, whether it's individual or whether it's governmental, and Nash County certainly has challenges. During this current year coming up, our challenge that we'll be facing, I think, many more besides these, but the one I think the board will be involved in and working on most will be the rewrite of the land use regulations of the Nash County Unified Development Ordinance to make it align with the new comprehensive land use plan that we adopted last year. What that does is get down into the nuts and bolts and the actual regulations that control growth in Nash County. And I do think we'll be getting in a consultant very soon to start that process. We may already be close to that, I'm not sure. But we all look forward to getting that done as well. And that would allow us as a board to work together to allow development in Nash County to be done in a way that this board can all buy into as your elected officials looking after that. Another challenge, of course, is going to be the previously mentioned tax reval evaluation. That's always a challenge. Each year we do that. And we know everyone's not going to be happy at the end of it. Some of you are going to think your values are too low. Some of you are going to think they're too high. But I think we have a great team. We did change vendors that we used this year to do this, and we have a lot of experience working on the Nash County plan. And I'm looking forward to it because I think we will have very little controversy at the end of the process. Another challenge we'll have is getting ready for this school demerger. It will mostly be done and worked on by our school board and not this board, but what this board's responsibility will be is to get the districts that will need to be adjusted, taken care of, and of course we'll need to look at the funding because our county will be losing some funding that goes for those children to go back, and we've got to help the school board to work through the adjustments that they would need as it relates to human services as well as facilities, and just be ready for that in 2025 when it comes. We are working on it currently with the school board, and I think we'll be ready. There's a lot of work to be done. Another thing that is a challenge for this board and more for our administration is to maintain workforce, including preparing for future retirements. The workforce this day and time, we all know if you run a business, is the most challenging it's ever been. And we do have a lot of people that have in key positions in the county that are coming up on retirement before too many more years. And of course, we encourage our administration to work on that daily to make sure we keep the quality people that Nash County is used to. I put in here candidate recruitment for this board. I'm always in favor of having people, looking people to serve on this board as well as all the other boards that we appoint people to. Our board is an aging board as well, and we have a little trouble enticing the younger people to get involved in government, but it is very important to be looking for those future leaders that we will need on every board that we appoint, plus the elected boards as well. Industrial recruitment, as I mentioned, is a very competitive process. We have done well. We want to continue doing well, and that's the best way to grow your tax base is to bring new industry to Nash County, as well as to grow the county itself, because when you have new industry, you also bring people to Nash County that will work in those industries. And another item that seems to be getting more prevailing, Mr. Durham, I'm sure you'll agree with this, is our need to defend what in most cases is frivolous lawsuits. We seem to be getting more of those each year, and we've had quite a few to deal with during this past year. A lot of them come out of our detention center, quite frankly, and hopefully the new detention center will deter that some. I'm not sure it will, because majority of them that we have been involved in really didn't have anything to do with the facilities themselves anyway. But we will continue to do that and be diligent in how we operate in that respect, and none of our board members care to be paying out county funds that we feel like really don't need to be paid out in a lawsuit. I also have a big thanks to say to quite a few people. First thanks I want to throw out is thanks to this board that we serve on together. We have 7 members that are elected by district to serve the citizens of Nash County. The commitment of our board members is unmatched by any other elected board. We had 23 public meetings in the year 2022. For our regular meetings, we had all 7 members present, with the exception of 1 meeting which had 1 member absent due to a family matter. That is 99.39% attendance rate. I want to commend this board for their work to be here each time, to come prepared, and it is a blessing to have a board that we all work together as well as this board does. Naturally, in addition to these meetings, which we were all present at, we had hundreds of other committee meetings that we had to attend throughout the year, and we break that up, and each one of us serves on 3 or 4, 5 or 6 committees. I don't keep tally of that, and probably don't keep tally of it, or none of us do. But as your elected chairman by the board, I appreciate the job that the board does. The only thing I wonder is why Mr. Edwards, the only black and white picture he had in the screen today was of the board. He didn't, every other is colored. I want y'all to notice that. I'm not sure why that was. Just give him a hard time, but he does do a great, great job for us. A bigger thanks goes out to our employees, quite frankly. Our board is very pleased, and we know it to have the 650-plus group working for Nash County. We are in a time when no other where, we are in a time that we know that the human aspect of every organization is the most important aspect of that organization. Our, Stacy, you think you might could help Donnie with cut that phone off? You got it, sir? Okay. Thank you, Donnie. And what I was saying is, it's just become very apparent during COVID particularly how important the human aspect of an organization is. You don't have anything else anywhere near the value of what an organization's employees are. And that's where I think Nash County stands very tall. And we want to thank, as a board, the employees that we have. Are we perfect with our employees? Of course not. We have flaws. We do have room for improvement, but I promise you we rank well above average from top to bottom with our employees, and this board wishes to thank each and every one of you. Our last thank you, of course, is to our citizens. We in Nash County have a great citizenry base of homegrown people with great values. We're also beginning to get an influx of people from other areas coming in and calling Nash County home. We welcome you, each and every one of you. Just to be able to say our tax collection rate for 2022 is 99.09%, I think is a great testimony to the kind of people our board gets to represent in Nash County. We thank each and every one of you. Without you, this board, quite frankly, would not be needed. And that is and I did get it shorter, but that is our state of the county for 2022. I would invite each board member, if they have something you wish to add, you're welcome to do that at this time. Anything any of you wish to add? Mr. Belfield?
Well, great report and good progress. I just like to add one area that I hope that we take a look at in 23 is affordable housing. We know our municipalities are going in that direction. And already have affordable housing, but counties I've observed in going to national meetings, state meetings, national meetings, counties are beginning to do affordable housing and taking advantage of the Affordable Housing Act that the federal government can help you fund. And I certainly hope that we would take a good look at that for 2023. Another thing, I don't think we all that bad, but I've been noticing a trend where we don't have as many African-American employees in the county as we once had. I know quite a few of them retired. And we just take a look at that. And I'm not saying get rid of anybody that's in position to put an African-American in there, but when positions are open, let's consider them. Great progress that we have made in Nash County in keeping that tax rate at 67 cents. And I think that's great. Not many counties. You look for a county with that rate, you got to go to the mountains. Those small counties up there in the mountains
Or to the
have
coast.
tax rates.
Or the coast.
Yeah, well, the coast is somewhere near us.
Yep.
Yeah, but the mountains are many of them are below us. And that's great.
Thank you, Mr. Belfield. I'm sure management heard your comments there. Anyone else wish to say anything?
I'd like to agree with Mr. Belfield, and we hope that you'll continue to work forward to make our county a diverse and a most progressive county.
Yes, sir. I would like to recognize, and I'm going to ask for any mayor that's with us this morning, if you would stand up for our 11 towns that we have in the county. I appreciate y'all being here this morning. Lou Harvey down at Middlesex, Brenda Brown in Nashville, and sir, you are from Whitaker's, okay? I don't think, I have met you, but it's been quite a while since I've seen you. Glad you're here, sir. And thank y'all. The next item on our agenda is, we get to do great things up here sometimes, is a resolution naming the bridge over NC 58 at US 264 in honor of, did I say 264? You did. Scarlet. NC 58 and US 64, thank you, Dan, in honor and memory of Nick and May O'Body. And at this time, I'm going to call on Melvin Mitchell, who's with us this morning and is our current DOT representative, to make this presentation. Mr. Mitchell, I know you got a tight schedule, so very pleased to hear from you this morning. And this board, while you were standing there, I wish to thank you for all you do for Nash County and the funds that we spoke about earlier that has been brought here.
Thank you, and good morning. Morning. Chairman Davis, it's an honor and a pleasure to read the resolution requesting naming a bridge for Nick and May O'Body. Whereas Nick and May O'Body were both well-respected citizens of Nash County, and whereas Nick and May O'Body were co-founders of the Body Noah Enterprises, Inc., formed in 1961 to serve as the Hardee's franchisee, and whereas Body Noah Enterprise currently operates 335 Hardee's restaurants in North Carolina, Virginia, South Carolina, and Kentucky. The company has approximately 10,000 employees and is the largest single private franchise company in the Hardee's restaurant chain. And whereas Nick and May O'Body were co-recipients of the Boy Scouts of America Distinguished Citizen Award for sharing the scouting belief in leadership, determination, and value and having contributed significantly to the growth and vitality of the community. And whereas Nick and Mel Body were inducted into the Twain County Hall of Fame in recognition for their significant contributions in life in Nash County through their energy, efforts, and inspiration. And whereas the action, life, and legacy of Nick and Mel Body serve as a worthy example for all citizens of Nash County, and a fitting memorial to their memory has been requested and is well-deserved and long overdue. Now, be it resolved by the Nash County Board of Commissioners that is hereby request that the North Carolina Board of Transportation name the bridge over NC 58 at US 64 in Nash County in the honor and memory of Nick and Mel Body, and that appropriate signage be erected and placed at the site. Adopted the 6th day of March 2023. Robbie B. Davis, Chairman, Nash County Board of Commissioners. Janice Evans, Clerk of the Board.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Melvin, as you know, this board is just a part of this process, and our part that we're pleased to do is to adopt this resolution, and we will send that to DOT, and it's DOT that officially takes the action to move forward with the signage and so forth. So we hope you'll endeavor your seat on the board to get this done for the bodies who we all know very well. I would like to say that Mayo Jr. is with us this morning. He did not want to address the board, but thank you for being here this morning, Mayo.
Thank y'all very much.
Yes, sir. And so with that said, I would entertain a motion to approve the resolution. Moved by Commissioner Wilkins, second by Commissioner Belfield. Any questions on that motion? All in favor of that motion, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by the like sign. Motion carries, and thank you, sir. We'll get the paperwork to you very quickly.
Thank you, Chairman Davis.
Thank you, sir. We could talk all morning about what the bodies, Nick and Mayo have done for Nash County. I think it's been well documented. And the one thing that I found about the bodies in my dealing with them all these years is they were always very unselfish for the regard of the wealth of all people in Nash County. That's one of the things that I will always remember about them. They helped us in many, many ways through many organizations. I don't remember any organization that helped the needs of Nash County and all the people of Nash County that those two gentlemen weren't involved in significantly. So we certainly appreciate that.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, ma'am.
I just wanted to say congratulations too, because they were awarded the Spirit of 2020 Tar River 2022 by United Way. I saw that on yesterday.
Okay. All right.
United Way Tar River. So they have been a permanent fixture in the community for a long time.
Sure have. All right, with that said, we will move on to item number 8, and I'll call on Andy Haggie to introduce our speaker. Andy, good morning, sir.
Good morning, everyone. I have the pleasure of introducing Ryan Combs, Executive Director of the Research Triangle Regional Partnership. Nash County has had the pleasure of also being a member of the regional group for over 3.5 years. RTRP provides the county some substantial marketing exposure to national and international markets and companies. And we've worked well, and I think Ryan's got a great presentation here to give you an even broader look at what his group does. And again, Nash has been benefiting from these efforts, and especially on an international level, through experts talking today with recent events in Europe and with the war, as well as high energy prices. Companies in the European markets are even looking at the U.S. for even more than they were due to COVID and supply chain issues. So it's good to have Nash County involved with an outreach that goes national as well as international. So, Brian, it's all yours.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning. It's a pleasure to be back in Nash County. Let me see if I can get this, there we go, PowerPoint to work. So as Andy mentioned, we're a 13-county regional economic development organization. We were actually started in the 1990s. The state of North Carolina liked the idea of regional partnerships. Created 7 partnerships throughout the state and funded those until 2014. Today, we're sustained by the 13 member counties. It's all based on population, so the larger counties are paying more into the partnership than the smaller counties. From the last time I spoke to you a year ago, we welcomed Orange County back into the partnership. We're excited now. We think Vance County may be coming back as well. They all see the benefit of tying all of our marketing dollars together and marketing ourselves as a region. Nash County, if there's one thing that I could talk to you this morning about that I'd like you to go away from the meeting remembering, it's congratulations on your shell building program. So some of the most successful counties in our partnership have had shell building programs. Chairman Davis mentioned it, but it's speed to market. When these companies come and they start looking, they're already behind the curve. They're looking to locate as quickly as they can. Wilson County has had a great shell building program for a while. If you see all the success Lee County's had over the last 5 years, it all has to do with the shell building program they have there. You look at some of our other communities are doing the same thing. Johnston County is, but I applaud y'all because it makes my job easier when I go out to promote Nash County that you have product ready to go. So only thing I would caution you on is y'all have great product. Be selective in the types of companies that you put in. Don't give it just to the first person that comes along. Make sure that those companies are going to provide high quality jobs for your folks in Nash County. So our primary audiences that we're reaching out to are site selection consultants. There was an article done in the Wall Street Journal that said over 70% of all companies, when they're looking to expand or relocate, use some type of site consultant. We go straight to C-suite executives through digital marketing campaigns, and then we host a lot of international groups and fly all over the world to promote our region. This was just actually last week. We traveled to Greenville, South Carolina. 11 of our 13 economic developers, Andy was one of those. There's a large contingent of site selection consultants that call Greenville home. And so once a year we go down there and we're able to get up and everyone's able to talk about what's going on in their counties. This is a brochure we put together. You can see the Middlesex building, shell building was the focus for the meeting last week for Nash County. Back in the fall, we also did a site selector trip and invited executives from several companies to a Red Sox-Yankee game. This did not come out of the money that y'all pay in. This was, we had private companies, Longfellow, Delta Airlines, and then the North Carolina Biotech Center helped do this event too. So we're leveraging the private sector dollars and then organizations like Biotech Center and EDP&C. We do a lot with EDP&C as well. Andy mentioned it, if you look at the geopolitics of the world, what's going on, we're focusing our efforts mostly on Western Europe. There has been a huge uptick in activity of European companies wanting to locate in the United States. So we have to get out and we have to tell our story because believe it or not, if you get outside the state of North Carolina, people can't even tell you where North Carolina is on a map. They want to go to Boston, they want to go to New York, they want to go to California because these are the communities that they know. And so we do a lot of proactive marketing. This was, sorry, the screen's kind of messed up, but this was last spring. We took the Secretary of Commerce and EDP&C to France, did a big event in Paris and Lyon. We go to other markets as well. We do lunch and learns where we work with our U.S. Commercial Service to introduce the Triangle region of North Carolina. So Vienna, Austria, we went to Dublin. We went to Basel, Switzerland just a couple of months ago. And so we're out promoting and telling companies, hey, there's other places in the United States besides these large markets that you're accustomed to that you can do business in. Last year, we hosted a diplomatic reception in Washington, D.C. We had 18 ambassadors come to the one reception just to hear what was going on. We had both our U.S. senators and 3 members of Congress join us for the reception. We also hosted a large contingent of American Chambers of Commerce from Europe. We had 24 countries represented there. They came to the Triangle last spring. And so what are we selling? We're selling all the different types of clusters we have. Obviously, life sciences is what we're really known for the most around the world, but technology is also up and coming. If you noticed in Wake County or in the Wake and Durham County, you've got Google, Apple, and even Meta in 2 weeks ago announced they were going to build a hub in the Triangle. Advanced manufacturing is what we're really selling hard, and then clean tech. But ag tech is an up-and-coming cluster that I'll talk a little bit more in depth about. But, you know, the life science industry, clearly the hottest industry we have here. A lot of companies, a lot of those European companies are looking to do manufacturing here. So we've already have over 600 companies that call this region home. So we continue to pound the pavement and promote the life sciences. Cell and gene therapy manufacturing. If you look on here, Beam Therapeutics and Pfizer, those are Lee County. Beam Therapeutics was a company in California. Lee County had a shell building that met the requirements they were looking for, and they pulled the trigger. They didn't even have the building finished when Beam bought the building. So you're positioning yourself perfectly for what's coming this way. And you can see biomanufacturing growth in North Carolina over the last few years, where it's headed. And then this is what I'm really passionate about. This is where we're spending about 50% of our marketing dollars this year is around agriculture technology. When we talk about ag tech, we talk about plant science, animal health, food tech, and ag data science. And so what we're doing right now is we've created this large digital marketing campaign. Believer Meats is actually it's a company that's going to Wilson, and it is a cell-cultured meat company. And so they take the cells off the back of a chicken or off the back of a cow, and they actually grow the meat in a Petri dish, and then you're going to be able to buy it at the grocery store. That sounds crazy now, but they're saying it's going to be a $60 billion industry in the next 15 years. So it's kind of the wave of the future. So that's just an example of a type of company when we talk about food tech that's coming this way. It was about a $130 million project for Wilson. This is our marketing campaign where cities and Crop Road share the same area code. So we're really trying to hit the fact that we have the urban and we have the rural. We have everything you need to be successful if you're in agriculture technology. This is an article that we've just posted into the Ag Business Global, promoting the Triangle region as the place to do business. These are some of our LinkedIn ads that we're now pushing out that'll be for the next few months. And then just next week, we are headed to the World Agritech Summit in San Francisco. Adrian Percy, who's the executive director of the Plant Science Initiative, is going to host a panel discussion. We're helping sponsor this big event. There's about 2,000 people headed there. And so those are just some of the activities that we're working on to really promote the region and get our name out. And that is the end of my presentation.
All right. Thank you, sir. Any questions?
Yeah.
He's here, Mr. Belfield.
What impact on economic development as it relates to the foreign countries, the war between Russia and Ukraine, you think that would have an impact on it?
I couldn't hear the middle of your question. I apologize.
What impact do you think the war between Russia and Ukraine is going to have on economic development worldwide?
I think if you look at the trend of where countries are aligning themselves, and I think we've seen this trend with China, the fact that they're aligning themselves with Russia. I think European countries are now having to choose whether they're going to go toward Russia and China or come to the United States. The United States is the number one place people want to do business, number one market in the world. So I think this speeds up, and it helps companies in Europe decide it's safer to do business in the United States than it is to align with these other countries.
Well, what are some of the challenges of business? What are some of the challenges related to large businesses from other countries locating here in the United States?
The largest challenges? I don't think there are any challenges. I think the United States has done a tremendous job of making ourselves accessible. I mean, it's easy to come here. I mean, we have probably seen a 30 to 40% uptick in the last year and a half of projects coming from Europe. But I mean, obviously, workforce is the biggest challenge, and that's a challenge everywhere. And so we talk a lot about our community college system and how we were able to train. Access to capital is always tough, but for us, I think we've got the secret sauce. We've got land, we've got buildings, we've got workforce, We've got great incentive programs at the state and county and local level, so I think we're in a win-win right now.
I'll tell you the reason I asked that. Large companies, and they have manufacturing several places. And sometime when they have a challenge, they'll shut one down. And over 1,000 people or more out of work. And for some reason, some can get employment and some stay unemployed for quite some time. So I have a concern for that. And that's why I was asking you about challenges of coming from large companies in foreign countries that are located here in America. And if they decide that things are not going the way they want, or it's in our best interest for satisfying our stockholders, that we're going to shut one down and then relocate. Maybe it's the one in the United States that we may decide to close, and those people are out of work. And it seems like to me that maybe we need to establish a very close relationship to keep a watch on that and hope that it doesn't happen. If they do have to downsize, that it wouldn't be here in the United States, wouldn't be here in Nash County, wouldn't be in North Carolina. And do you track them once we get them, we get these industries in? Because I've mentioned this before about establishing a good relationship and with the hierarchy and those that's handling different regions, so that hopefully that wouldn't happen.
Yes, sir. So my primary focus is just marketing. I'm not working with companies once they establish it, but I will tell you the companies that you're referring to are making hundreds of $1 million investments. So if they're going to invest that type of money in a community, they're not going to pull out pretty quick. But I'll give you an example. We were just in Denmark in October, and we went and met with the leadership at Novo Nordisk. They're the largest employer in Johnston County, just to make sure everything was going great with Novo Nordisk. They assured us it was. But the Department of Commerce, some of our, even the community college presidents. I know I'm very good friends with the president of Wake Tech Community College. He said not a day goes by he's not talking to industry in Wake County. So obviously, it is something we have to keep tabs on to make sure companies are happy. But I think like I said, I think y'all are doing a great job keeping taxes low. The state's doing a great job keeping taxes low. People are flocking here. 64 people a day are moving to the Triangle. We're record tax collection in the state. So I think we've got a lot of stuff going for us right now.
Well, I just think that we all that's working in the area of economic development, we have summits sometime where we get together, that these are some concerns that ought to be looked at as to how we handle situations like that.
Yes, sir. I would leave on one note that over 70% of all economic development announcements are expansions. So taking care of the companies that you already have here is crucial.
Other commissioners have a question of Mr. Combs before he leaves? Mr. Aaron?
Well, you mentioned that we're on the right direction as far as with shell buildings. What other challenges do you see as far as Nash County here that we might can improve on to make our county more attractive, whether it be, well, whatever you have seen and shared with Andy,
Yes, sir.
things that we might need to do to enhance what we're already doing?
Yes, sir. I think you're on the right path with Wi-Fi, broadband internet for the entire county. Obviously, you need the shell buildings, but you also need water and sewer. You need gas. So all those types of things are very important when it comes to economic development. You're on the right path. I see where some of our communities have not invested, and it's really hard to sell those communities, but y'all are getting a lot of looks now because you have available products. So I applaud y'all for being proactive there.
We'll just say, if you think of something on the way, drive back home, please let us know what that would be, right?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Harris?
All right.
All right, no other comments. We greatly appreciate you being here this
Yes,
morning.
sir. Thank you.
And appreciate what you do for us.
Yes, sir.
Our next item on the agenda is the second public hearing, conditional use rezoning request, CZ 221201, Davis Little. And I was contacted very, very recently by this applicant, and I think he wishes to speak to the board at this time. Mr. Davis, before I move forward with a public hearing, come forward and let us know what you got on your mind about this, and then I'll know how to proceed.
Thank you, sir. And this is a new endeavor for me to be able to stand before the commissioners. It feels much more natural if I were standing behind a pulpit and asking you guys to open up your hymnals to sing. And don't take this wrong, but some of you guys kind of look like some of the folks in my Baptist church, okay? But with that in mind, I'm going to move on, okay?
Fine, thank you, sir.
My name's Phil Davis, and with my business partner Melanie Little, we own Davis Little Funerals. And we would like to respectfully withdraw our petition to rezone the property that's been in question. It's located on Halifax Road. And if I may, I'd like to just respond briefly to what brought us to this point. And the only reason I want to be able to respond to it is because I want to be able to walk away, and I want to be in good standing with the commissioners. I want to be in good standing with the planning board, and also in good standing with the Westmount community. But we originally chose the Halifax Road property based on what we thought would be an ideal location for us and for the families that we serve. However, the receptivity hasn't been quite as welcoming as we would have liked it to have been. And I think that maybe some of that is because there were some emotionally charged buzzwords that may have contributed to that. We are a business deeply rooted in service, and we absolutely do not want to be anywhere that's going to cause any discomfort or distress for our neighbors. And if we can't serve in a community where our business is located at, then that's probably not the ideal place for us to be. So even though that estate does allow for funeral homes to be in rural areas to operate with on-site septic systems, it does come with a lot of requirements that would be challenging and time-consuming for us, and we're just not willing to sacrifice any time that we need to give to our families to be able to press forward with this one. And last reason is there are some questions about the land integrity, or maybe lack of, and the site requirements that may need to be done before we could even begin the building process. So collectively, those items have kind of tipped the scales where we feel that it would be in the best interest of Davis Little Funerals and that particular community that we withdraw the rezoning request. So we're not going to pursue the Halifax Road property, and hopefully that request will eliminate maybe any further discussions from the floor.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Davis.
Thank you. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, sir. Very nicely said. Mr. Tyson, do you want to give us anything you need to do to get us in the right place on this item?
Couple things that I would note. The first is that the actual applicant for the rezoning is the property owner, Mr. Donnie Weaver, behind me, and his daughter, Ginger Robles. I am assuming that they are also in agreement with withdrawing the request. This would, if approved, it would very narrowly approve this use of the property for a funeral home. And so I don't think that it would be in their best interest to go forward if Mr. Davis and Ms. Little are not planning to develop that property. So I did just want to note for the record that the actual applicant is the property owner. Secondly, I want to assure anyone who was present for today's public hearing that if the applicant were to change their mind, that they would assuredly receive further public notices from my office of a new public hearing. The zoning of that property cannot be changed without a public hearing process. And so if there's any change to the status from where we leave it today, they would be advised by my office through the same channels as before. Signs posted on the property, legal ads in the newspaper, and letters to the property owners within 600 feet of the property. So there's no need to be concerned that anything will go forward as far as rezoning this property without additional public notice from county government.
Mr. Tyson, the first item you mentioned, I don't quite know how to proceed. Mr. Durham, do we need to have Mr. Tyson discuss it with the applicant, or tell
He
me?
should confirm that with the applicant and the owner if he's here.
Okay, the owner of the property and applicant is here. To withdraw it, it actually needs to come from the person that
Mr.
made the
Weaver.
application. Okay. I can move to another item. Do you want to discuss this outside with, well, you're next on there. Why don't I move to a different item a little bit further down? You take Mr. Weaver outside and discuss it with him. Mr. Weaver, are you understanding where we're at, sir?
What did he say? What did he say?
Okay.
I'll explain it.
Right.
And then we'll come back.
Okay, I'll move on and skip your items and move a little bit further down. Adam, if you need Mr. Davis or Ms. Little, just let them know in the process. Okay. Anybody need a short break, or you want me to keep moving? Everybody good? All right, I'm gonna keep moving, then we'll go down to item number 12, which is our monthly tax report. Ms. Sumner is present, so that's okay. Anybody on the board got an objection to me moving to that point? Seeing none, Ms. Sumner, good to see you, ma'am.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Okay, at this time, I would like to present the monthly tax report. As you all know, this report is designed to keep the board current on our activities in the tax collector's office. It is for your information only and does not require approval. However, it is recommended that you accept the report so that it'll be noted in the minutes. And I'd just like to add that we're working very hard to make sure we've kind of maintained where we were last year with our collections rates. So the staff is working really hard.
I
And
guess
if there are any
we put the
questions.
monkey on your back this morning, didn't we?
Yes, sir.
Well, don't feel like it. Don't feel that's what we did. We're very appreciative of what your staff does. All right. Any questions on on this report? Seeing none, we accept it and list it in the agenda as accepted.
All right, thank you, sir.
Next item on the agenda would be the monthly tax refunds. And please
Yes, sir. we
present
do-
those to us if you have some.
Yes, sir. We do have two refunds that we need approval on. The first refund is for a downtown incentive grant program, and then the second one is for a account that was billed in error, and they have paid the taxes, and we just need to issue that refund back.
Since we do not see many of these, could you give us a little information on the first item? I think I know what it is, but
Yeah.
tell us what that is.
Yes, sir. This is part of Rocky Mount's Downtown Incentive Program, and the purpose of the Downtown Rocky Mount Development Incentive Grant is to encourage reinvestment in downtown Rocky Mount. The program covers substantial rehabilitation of older buildings and new infill development. So it's trying to encourage redevelopment of old buildings that are vacant in Rocky Mount, downtown Rocky Mount.
Do you recall us having, seemed like we may have had one or two of these before.
We have.
Okay.
This was our second one, and as a matter of fact, this one refund will be the last one for this project, but we do have another one
Okay,
that's still in the program.
thank you, ma'am. All right, entertain a motion to approve those.
Move for approval?
Motion by Commissioner Leggett. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Combs. Questions on the motion? All in favor of that motion, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed by a like sign? Motion carries. Tax release request,
Yes.
item number 14.
Okay, we do have a release request for the board's consideration, and TGC USA Properties LLC has requested a release of interest on parcel 341515 due to a non-receipt of their 2022 ad valorem tax bill. After reviewing the matter, including consulting with the School of Government, our office determined that this matter was the result of a previously unknown software limitation regarding the processing of international mail. The response from the School of Government indicated that technically, per North Carolina General Statute 105-348, the failure to receive a tax bill does not normally justify late payment. However, if the failure was the fault of the county due to a data entry error, then it's in their opinion that most counties would agree to waive the interest, acting under North Carolina General Statute 105-381. In order to prevent this from happening in future billings, we will be sending all international bills directly from the tax office or until such future time when a software modification can be made. And what's happened here on this is they did not receive their tax bill. They have their Canadian address, and it did not make it to them.
Due to Nash County's,
Yes, due to a
Software.
software
Okay, all right.
issue.
so your recommendation is,
That we could do this under the North Carolina General Statute 105-381, probably Section A and 1 for clerical error.
okay, thank you. Entertain a motion to approve this request.
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Outlaw, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Bellfield. Questions on the motion? All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed by a like sign? Motion carries, ma'am. Your request is approved.
All right, thank you, sir.
And while you're there, let's take care of,
And the final
15.
item that I have is to establish the date for the Board of Equalization and Review. As described in the North Carolina General Statute 105-322, Section E, the Board of Equalization and Review shall hold its first meeting no earlier than the first Monday in April and no later than the first Monday in May. It is recommended that the board schedule the first meeting of the Board of E&R on Monday, May the 1st, 2023, at 11 a.m., and adjourn for the purpose of accepting appeals at its second meeting on June the 5th, 2023.
okay? And that has nothing to do with eval, that's all normal.
That is our normal Board of E&R. Yes, sir.
All right, you've heard the request, entertain a motion for that.
Motion to approve is recommended.
Okay. Have a motion by Commissioner Combs, there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Wilkins. Commissioner Wilkins,
Yes.
following up on your request here. All in favor of that request, this motion, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by a like sign? Motion carries. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Mr. Tyson, you need us to come back up to you or what you need at this time? We back on item number 9.
Yes, sir. During the pause, I discussed it with Mr. Donnie Weaver, who is the property owner and the applicant for conditional rezoning request CZ 22-1201. And based on the prospective purchasers of the property's desire to withdraw this request, Mr. Weaver has agreed. Mr. Weaver, for the record, Could you give your consent to withdraw this rezoning from today's agenda?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. That's all we need to do, correct?
Yes,
Do you need a motion for that, or are you good?
we're good.
All right, with that said, we'll move from item number 9 to item number 10, which is the public hearing on conditional rezoning request CZ 230201 photographic studio. Ms. Tyson? Photography studio, excuse me.
The subject property is highlighted in red on the aerial photo on the left side of your screen and highlighted in yellow on the zoning map on the right-hand side of your screen. This is a 4.66 acre tract of land currently owned by Joshua Hancock and Mary Gorey. It's located at 12731 Edwards Road, north of the town of Spring Hope. You can see it is a portion of a larger, approximately 31 acre area shown in this red color on the zoning map that was rezoned back in September 1997 to general commercial conditional use, specifically for the development of the 9-hole, 24-hour illuminated Willoughby Lane Golf Course. That golf course, of course, is no longer in operation. The subject property here contains, which is just a portion of the overall golf course, contains the former clubhouse pro shop building, as well as a swimming pool, which was permitted later in May 2003 by an amendment to the conditional rezoning. The facility is served by a private on-site well and septic system. The property owner, Mr. Hancock, Ms. Gorey, have submitted this rezoning request specifically to add photography studio as a permitted land use in addition to the already existing golf course and swimming pool. This is a closer view of the actual portion of the property that will be rezoned. That's the clubhouse, pro shop, and then the swimming pool there. The photography studio would operate within that existing building, and the applicant is not proposing any significant external changes to the structure or the site as part of this request. This is a conditional rezoning request, so it allows for the attachment of reasonable site-specific development conditions. The area of the property that is to be used as a photography studio is designated by our recently adopted future land use map as residential agricultural area. You'll note that there is some blue water protection and natural resource area that is included in the property, but the existing structure that is to be utilized is on the other side of the property and does not interact with that area. So it is clearly in the residential agricultural area. The request is consistent with some recommendations of the plan for limited non-residential uses in this area, but it's inconsistent with a couple others. It's consistent because the property has frontage along and direct access to Edwards Road, a state-maintained secondary road. The existing building is separated from adjacent residential development, and the site is mostly screened from view by existing vegetation. You have some thick woods to the northeast here and a planted row of screening trees along Edwards Road. The commercial land use is limited in both size and scope by the restrictions and recommended conditions of the rezoning request. It is inconsistent because the subject property is not located within a quarter mile of a major intersection, which is a consideration for establishing commercial zoning districts. And it's also inconsistent because it's not located in proximity to other existing commercial land uses, with the exception of the remainder of the former golf course. Perhaps what would outweigh the two inconsistencies is the fact that we do have an existing commercial structure here that will need to be granted some sort of commercial zoning approval in order to be appropriately used in the future going forward. This request may be considered reasonable in the public interest and not spot zoning because, as I mentioned, the subject property is already zoned for commercial use, and the proposed photography studio should be substantially less intensive than the previously permitted 24-hour illuminated golf course. The Technical Review Committee considered this back on February 14th, recommended approval, subject to suggested development conditions. The Nash County Planning Board considered this request on February 20th. The property owners addressed the board at that time in support of the request, and no other members of the public attended or were present at the meeting for that item. The Planning Board voted unanimously to recommend approval of the request, subject to suggested development conditions. And I want to review those briefly. They're on page 22 of your agenda packet. Number one, the subject property, in addition to its previous approval for a golf course and swimming pool, would now be approved for use as a photography studio. Number two, the subject property should be developed in accordance with the approved site plan. Conditions 3, 4, and 5 are having to do with their carryovers from the previous golf course approval. And so if the property were to ever be developed or operated again as a golf course, then the lights used for the illumination would still need to be shielded to not shine directly on surrounding properties or create a traffic hazard. The off-street parking requirements would be 4 parking spaces per hole, 1 parking space per employee, and the existing vegetative screening buffer would have to be preserved and maintained. So those 3 conditions are holdovers or carryovers from the previous approval of the golf course. Condition number 6 is a recommendation from the county attorney in order for us to be meeting the letter of the law under state statutes for conditional rezonings. From now on, the recommendation is that the petitioner, after the public hearing, will consent in writing to all the attached development conditions. The petitioner can't consent in writing ahead of the public hearing because it's possible the development conditions could change as a result of the public hearing. But what we anticipate is they would follow up this public hearing in the event of an approval by signing a document giving written consent to the conditions that the board eventually decides are appropriate. And so condition number 6 is a condition that you will see going forward recurring with our conditional rezonings, again, in an effort to meet the letter of the law under the state statute, which concerns conditional zonings. There is a motion to approve and a motion to deny. The board, with either motion, will need to adopt a statement of plan consistency and reasonableness. And of course, if the motion is for approval, both the TRC and the planning board recommend the attachment of those 6 development conditions. The property owners are here today to participate in the public hearing. And before we do that, I'll pause and take any questions on the staff report.
Any questions of Mr. Tyson on item number 10? Thank you, Mr. Tyson. Entertain a motion to go into public hearing on this matter at this time.
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Outlaw, second by Commissioner Wilkins. Questions on that motion? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed by a like sign? Motion carries. Ladies and gentlemen, we are now in a public hearing to hear from anyone that's here today that wishes to speak on this conditional use rezoning. And what we ask you to do is come forward at this time if you're for or against it, and state your name and address for the record, and the board will be glad to hear from you. Anyone wish to speak on this item? No speakers on this item? All right, entertain a motion to close the public hearing at this time.
So moved.
Motion made to close the public hearing by Commissioner Leggett, seconded by Commissioner Belfield. Any questions on that motion? All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed by a like sign? Public hearing is now closed. Any other questions from a board member of Mr. Tyson? Seeing none, entertain a motion for the liking of the board.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve, move that the Nash County Board of Commissioners adopt the statement of consistency and reasonableness and approve this amendment.
Okay. I have a motion
Second.
from Commissioner Ayrton, second by Commissioner Combs. Any questions on the motion?
I've got a question.
Sure.
Would the applicant still be required to keep up the parking requirement for golf course if they're not operating a golf course?
The parking requirement would probably revert to a ratio in the ordinance for a business like a photography studio, which would be based on the square footage of the customer service area. But in this case, I think that there is dirt parking outside the building that the applicant intends to continue to use, and there's no significant expansion of a parking lot planned.
Thank you.
Other questions? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed by a like sign. Motion carries and the property is rezoned. Thank you, sir.
And to the property owners, I'll be following up with the document that requires your signature on those conditions.
All right, item number 11 is a public hearing on the UDO text amendment request A230201, off-site wastewater.
This is a text amendment that is a result of discussion at our last commissioners' meeting, specifically on a similar text amendment. On February 6th, the board approved an amendment that would allow for shared off-site wastewater systems to serve multiple residential lots or structures. That amendment was adopted, but as a part of that amendment, there was a discussion about a piece of our existing ordinance that has to do with off-site wastewater systems serving individual residential lots or structures. If you'll recall, that text amendment proposed a minor change to those requirements. Specifically, there was a requirement involving the minimum amount of land needed to permit an off-site septic system. And because of the way it was currently worded, it was difficult to enforce. The board chairman expressed a desire to not necessarily eliminate that provision, but to revise that requirement so that it would be practical to enforce. The previous text amendment recommended eliminating it. The board did approve that request. I think we forgot to revisit that point when we got to the motion portion. But nevertheless, the statements of the chairman were heard and taken into account. And so the planning department and the environmental health division have collaborated on this proposed text amendment, which is intended to adjust that minimum land area requirement to make it practical to enforce. So the text amendment is on the screen before you. This entire section has to do with off-site wastewater systems for an individual lot or principal structure, meaning that you have a house and for whatever reasons, the septic system serving that house needs to be located on an adjacent piece of property. That is not the preferred method, and so we have this set of existing regulations that impose extra requirements on those, and those requirements are intended to provide security for the person using the off-site septic system. There's no changes to letter A. You'll see the changes are highlighted. In letter B, we make a change just to correct the name of Nash County Environmental Health from Nash County Environmental Services. In letter C, we change the word primary to initial for reasons that will be evident in letter D. The main change here is previously the ordinance read an area 3 times the size of the minimally recommended requirement by Nash County Environmental Services shall be set aside on the special purpose lot for the off-site system. The difficulty is that Nash County Environmental Health does not recommend a minimum amount of land. They approve a specific design for a specific septic system that is customized for those particular soil conditions at that particular site. So it is difficult to refer to a standard amount of land and then multiply that by 3. So the text amendment today would read, an area large enough to accommodate, first, the initial septic system, second, a primary repair area, which if you look up at letter C, the repair area has to be installed at the same time as the initial system. That's part of the current requirements. And then thirdly, a secondary repair area. So in case the initial system fails and the primary repair system fails, then there's an area set aside for the installation of a secondary repair area. Both the Planning Department and Environmental Health felt that this was equivalent to requiring 3 times the size. So essentially, we believe that this gets to the same intention as the original language, but because it refers to a system design instead of an amount of land, it will be more practical for the health department to enforce. I should also note that very little of this is done in Nash County. The overwhelming majority of septic systems are on the same lot that they serve. And most of the time when we have to deal with this, it's a situation we've inherited where someone has discovered for the first time that their septic system is on another property because it was permitted a long time ago when the location of property lines was a little more fuzzy than it is today. The final change there is in letter E, also updates the name of Nash County Environmental Services to Nash County Environmental Health. So hopefully this text amendment accomplishes what the ordinance was already intending to accomplish, but this minor change in language will make it more practical for the health department to enforce. The land development plan, which we're required to consult anytime we amend the ordinance, this particular request is neither consistent nor inconsistent with the plan because the plan does not specifically address this particular situation of the minimum land area required for off-site wastewater systems. The Technical Review Committee considered this on February 14th and recommended approval. The Planning Board considered this on February 20th. There were no members of the public addressing the board at that time with regard to the request, and the Planning Board voted unanimously to recommend approval of the request. This is a one-motion process to approve or deny the text amendment, and of course, we'll need to, along with that, adopt the Statement of Plan Consistency, which recognizes that this particular amendment is neither consistent nor inconsistent. And now, prior to the public hearing, I will pause and take any questions on the staff report.
Any questions, Mr. Tyson?
I got one question.
Yes.
In E, the ORC, who would that person or persons be?
That would typically be a person that is employed by a company that operates community water systems or community septic systems, essentially private septic systems if you have a subdivision that's on a shared well or they have shared aggregate septic systems. In this case, if you had a homeowner, they would need to have a relationship with a company that employs an operator in responsible charge, a person who is trained to perform maintenance and inspections on these septic systems, and then that person would be required to report to the Environmental Health Department as to the health and functioning of that system twice a year.
So it's a requirement with a shared system like this that you have someone responsible documented on record.
That's right. And that person has to have the appropriate training to have the title in North Carolina as an operator in responsible charge.
Thank you.
Other questions? Thank you, Mr. Tyson. Entertain a motion to go into public hearing on this matter.
So move to go in public hearing.
Moved by Commissioner Wilkins, second by Commissioner Belfield. Questions on the motion? All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed by a like sign? Motion carries. Ladies and gentlemen, anyone here wish to speak for or against this item number 11 on the agenda, please come forward and state your name and address for the record. Anyone wish to speak? Seeing no one movement, I will entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Wilkins. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Leggett. Questions on the motion? All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by a like sign? Public hearing is now closed. Pleasure of the board.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the text amendment request with a statement of plan of consistency.
All right, have a motion to approve. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Wilkins. Any questions on the motion? Motion was to approve with the plan of consistency. That's a tough word, ain't it, Mr. Aaron?
Reasonableness.
Oh,
Plan of consistency.
right, plan of consistency, thank you. Any questions on the motion? All in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed by like sign? Motion carries as well. Thank you for very rapidly getting that matter taken care of, Mr. Tyson. Didn't feel like we really intended to give up anything in that other process.
Correct.
All right, the next item, let's see, we took care of 12, 13, 14, 15. Next item is item number 16, which is a resolution authorizing the execution of opioid settlement. I'll call on our manager at this time.
Good morning.
Good morning.
You all should have received an email from the Department of Justice. And then, of course, last week, we were at our district meeting where you heard from NCACC staff about a second wave of settlement money that is coming. The North Carolina Department of Justice recently negotiated a $21 billion in settlement with CVS, Walgreens, Walmart, Allergan, and Teva that they are referring to as the Wave 2 settlements. These Wave 2 settlements have the potential to bring significantly greater resources to the county to address the opioid epidemic. North Carolina's state and local governments stand to receive more than $600 million from the Wave 2 settlements, in addition to the more than $750 million we already received, will be receiving in the Wave 1 settlements. And we have a resolution attached, and I'll be glad to read that if you'd like.
Anybody wish to have the resolution read? All of you have read it? Your pleasure, madam.
If we're good, I'm fine.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
And so the request is to approve the resolution, which authorizes me as your manager to execute the documents necessary to enter into the opioid settlement agreement with Walmart, Walgreens, CVS, Allergan, and Teva, and to execute the supplemental agreement for additional funds and send those documents to Rubris, who is the implementation administrator.
All right. Any questions? Entertain a motion for approval of the resolution.
Motion approved.
Motion by Commissioner Combs, there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Ayrton. Questions on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed by a like sign? Resolution stands approved, ma'am.
Thank you.
All right, that was item number 16. We'll move to item number 17, which is a fireworks permit approval. I'll call on Brett Fisher at this time. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. What I have before you is a fireworks display permit. The Nash County Fire Marshal's Office has received a permit application to conduct a fireworks display at an event on April 8th, 2023 at Rose Hill. The operational permit requester is the contractor Kevin Wetzel of Wetzel Pyrotechnics of 125 Eagleton Circle, Moyock, North Carolina. The permit application and accompanying documents are in order. North Carolina General Statute 14-410 requires the Board of Commissioners give approval prior to the fire marshal issuing the permit, and the Nash County Fire Marshal's Office recommends approval of the operational permit for Kevin Wetzel doing business as Wetzel Pyrotechnics.
Any discussion from the board? Call for motion for approval.
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Outlaw. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Combs. Any questions on the motion? All in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed by a like sign? Motion carries. Thank you, sir.
Thank y'all.
Good to see you this morning.
You too.
Next item is the engineering service contract for Northern Nash Phase 2 water system improvements. We'll call on Mr. Boone to make this request.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
As Chairman Davis mentioned during the State of County address, one of the larger capital projects we have on our near-term horizon is the Phase 2 improvement for the Northern Nash water system. And the matter I have before you today is a proposed contract with the Wooten Company to provide the engineering services to design and permit then bid and construct those improvements. That contract amount, you had a chance to review that contract, $1,807,500, and it's anticipated that the construction portion of that contract will be approximately $15.5 million. And just for point of reference, just remind you that we will be using the grant funds that Chairman Davis referenced in the state of the county address, almost $12.8 million grant we received from NCDEQ and the State Water Infrastructure Authority, and then a portion of the ARPA funds that the chairman also referenced during his address, about $5.3 million of that 18.6, I believe, was the total. So the project will be more or less 100% funded with grant funds that the county received from the state and the federal government. So that said, I'll be glad to answer any questions you may have.
Questions of Mr. Boone on this engineering contract? It seems large, but it's a very large sum of money, with a lot of miles of engineering work to do.
I guess I could have mentioned about 50 miles of water mains, one new groundwater supply well, and one new booster pump station.
Is there a project map available somewhere?
There is. I'll be glad to share that with you.
Thank you.
Glad to share that with the entire board.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Boone, I understand you also will be utilizing some part-time inspections, inspectors like you did on phase one. Is that in the plan as well?
Yes, sir, in order to manage the costs on the project and have a local inspector that can assist us with oversight of construction, also troubleshooting issues we have, we'll be using a part-time inspector, a retired City of Rocky Mount water and sewer employee that assisted us on the phase one contract.
Any other questions on this item?
And he is a Nash County native.
He is indeed, if it's who I think it is. Seeing none, entertain a motion for approval.
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Outlaw. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Ayrton. Questions on that motion? All in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed by a like sign. Motion stands approved. You can make the Wooten's Day today, sir. Next item on the agenda is item number 19, which is amendment and task order for the Wooten Company.
Yes, sir. While we're on the theme of utility improvements, next matter I have for you is a contract amendment for a contract that we issued in the calendar year 2022, on-call services contract we have with the Wooten Company for utility-related projects. And again, during the state of county address, the chairman mentioned the Phase 1B improvements on the Northern Ash Water System project. Phase 1B, you may recall, includes developing two new groundwater supply wells and the incorporation of a groundwater supply well that the county acquired from Aqua, North Carolina, into the Northern Ash Water System, and also about 1.5 miles of water mains to connect one of those new wells to that system. Because the grant funds, I don't want to get too far down in the weeds, but just trying to anticipate some questions. The grant funds that the county received to fund Phase 1 improvements included, the scope of work included 2 new water supply wells. Again, I mentioned that we acquired 2 wells, one of which we will be incorporating into the district as part of the Phase 1B improvements. That third well was not part of that scope of work, so that is an ineligible expense as part of the grant funds that the county received for Phase 1. So that's why I am coming to you today with an amendment to our on-call services contract to pay for the engineering work to design the additional treatment and other improvements needed at that well to incorporate into this project. It was not a grant-eligible expense. So on that on-call services contract, it was approved for an amount up to $30,000. We have about $13,000 on that contract as unspent. The engineering services to provide for the additional design work to incorporate the Aqua well that we acquired at Shepherd's Way subdivision into the Northern Ash Water System is about $21,500. So I'm asking for an amendment to the on-call services contract of $8,500 and task order 3. So this will be the third scope of work that's been issued under that contract for this work. So I said a lot in a short amount of time, and hopefully I didn't confuse you too much. But if you have any questions, I'll be glad to try to clarify.
Questions of Mr. Boone on this item?
Wasn't the recommendation when we started this project called for 3 wells?
It did call for 3 wells, but it did not anticipate the interconnection with the city of Rocky Mount for bulk water, which is currently the way that we're supplying water to the district to date. So you may recall that the county acquired water mains along Halifax Road, currently outside the city of Rocky Mount, and then as part of the Phase 1 improvements, we constructed a vault on Halifax Road near Hunter Hill Road to provide water to the district. So the bulk water supply we're acquiring from Rocky Mount will be supplemented by the 2 wells that will still be paid for through the grant funds, and then this 3rd well that we acquired from Aqua, again, will be paid for with funds outside of the original grant funds that the county received. But you are correct. The original contract, or the original scope and grant anticipated 3 groundwater supply wells. It did not anticipate buying the water system improvements and establishing the connection to the city of Rocky Mount. So to make that expense eligible, we had to do a little, maybe a better word to use, but I'm going to use horse trading with the state. And we swapped out one of the groundwater wells in order to acquire the water mains along Halifax Road that the city used to operate to supply the town of Dorches and the rest area on I-95, to buy those improvements and also to construct that vault.
You get all that, sir? Okay. I think you did a pretty good horse trade there, Mr. Boone.
Worked
Any
that
other
well.
questions?
We wouldn't have water right now without it.
That's right.
And anyway, the location and the reason that was not included in the grant denied.
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question?
The location and the reason that it was not approved with the original grant.
The interconnect with the city of Rocky Mount, it predates my tenure, but I would theorize, and that's all I can do is theorize. There were some folks here before I was that may be better equipped to answer the question, is the county was not aware that the city of Rocky Mount would be willing to convey those assets to the county or to sell those assets to the county outside the city limits. And I happened to be the water resources director at the time, and when approached by the county, and considering the request, it made good sense to me, and I'd recommend approval, and the city decided to move forward with it. So that changed the scope of the project for the county once they submitted the request to the city, and the city responded favorably.
In the beginning, Commissioner Arrington, we weren't able to successfully negotiate a rate to be the bulk water supplier for the Northern Nash Water System from the city of Rocky Mount. Therefore, we moved in a different direction of doing groundwater. But then this opportunity opened up later, and it was the best of both worlds to have that backup for our system. So if we had 1, 2, or 3 wells that we're going to end up with, any of them to fail, and we had a lack of water supply to supply the people that had signed on with us. That's why it was, I made the statement, it was a great horse trading that Mr. Boone was able to do to get that done and get it funded. Other questions? Seeing none, entertain a motion for approval.
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Outlaw. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Wilkins. Other questions on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed by a like sign? Motion stands approved as well. That was item number 19. And we are now on item number 20, Mr. Boone.
Yes, sir. Board may recall at the meeting last month during public comment section of the meeting, Mr. Cephas Ray of 7673 Stony Hill Church Road addressed the board regarding his interest, and approximately 100 other residents had signed a petition that he had circulated to have a roundabout constructed at the intersection of NC 581 and Stony Hill Church Road. He also mentioned that he had been in contact with the North Carolina Department of Transportation, had shared his petition, presented a letter to the Department of Transportation, also shared that with the board. And towards the end of his comments, as I recall, referenced that he had been directed to address the board and Nash County about assistance in funding those improvements should the North Carolina Department of Transportation conclude that a roundabout versus a four-way stop would be the best course of action at that location. Based on Mr. Ray's comments and based on a request from the manager's office, I reached out to the North Carolina Department of Transportation. I first contacted the Division 4 office in Wilson. I spoke to the Assistant Division Engineer, Mr. Andy Brown. Mr. Brown confirmed that the Department of Transportation was conducting a traffic safety study at that location, that the crash data and traffic volumes appeared to meet the warrants for a four-way stop. But the Regional Traffic Safety Office was also evaluating the feasibility of a roundabout at that location to address, again, those traffic safety concerns that Mr. Ray expressed and shared with the board. After speaking with Mr. Brown, I also followed up with Ms. Bailey Harden in the Regional Traffic Safety Office. She basically confirmed everything Mr. Brown had said to me. And as part of that conversation, I asked Ms. Harden if there was any expectation that the county would be asked to help fund those improvements. Anticipating her answer was going to be no, because both of those roadways are state maintained. She confirmed that any improvements at that intersection would be funded with state or federal funds. And just to remind the board, and for those in the audience today or those who may be listening to this meeting in the future, basically we have three categories of roads in the state of North Carolina. We have private roads, individuals own. We have roads that either municipalities or towns own and operate and maintain, or we have roads that the state operates and maintains. There are no county-owned roads in the state of North Carolina. So that comment during the public comment session last month struck me as a little curious. But again, when talking with Mr. Brown and Ms. Harden, they confirmed that the study is underway. Expect those results to come back in the coming months. At that time, they'll determine the best course of action, whether it be a four-way stop or a roundabout. And once that decision is made, they will seek the funding required to construct those improvements and anticipate that will be state or federal dollars.
Questions on this matter? Do we let Mr. Ray know where we are on this? Have we or will we?
I have spoken with Mr. Ray, but I have not followed up with him. I was waiting until we made the presentation today, and then I will follow up with the manager's office.
Okay. I don't know that we really got a protocol on public comment, but any questions on this from board members? Good news. Whatever administration decides to do with that, it would be, I think, appropriate to get back with Mr. Ray.
We will.
All right, that was item number 20. Thank you, Mr. Boone. Next item is item number 21, Municipal Corporate Center Phase 2 Interlocking Cooperative Agreement with the Town of Middlesex. I'll call on Patsy McGee at this time.
Thank you. Nash County and the Town of Middlesex are in the process of developing Phase 2 of Middlesex Corporate Center to provide for the associated infrastructure needs. We have been awarded 3 grants, a Golden Leaf Open Grants Program grant of $500,000 to provide funding for sewer infrastructure, and North Carolina Commerce Rural Economic Development Industrial Development Fund Utility Account grant of $1,681,230 to provide funding for sewer, electric, and road infrastructure, and a NCDOT locally administered project of $400,000 to provide funding for road infrastructure. In your packet is an interlocal cooperation agreement between Nash County and the Town of Middlesex, and the grant agreements for these 3 grants as Exhibits A, B, and C. We're asking that you approve this interlocal agreement between Nash County and the Town of Middlesex for Middlesex Corporate Center Phase 2. It's very similar to the interlocal cooperation agreement for Phase 1 that was approved by this board in 2018. It has been reviewed by the county attorney and by the Town of Middlesex, and is scheduled for the Town Council consideration on March 13th. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to try to answer them.
Questions of Ms. McGee on this item? Mr. Belfield?
Refresh my memory. Didn't we last year get a 500,000 grant from Golden Leaf for the Middlesex Industrial Park?
Yes, this is that grant.
This is new.
No, this is that same grant.
Same
Additionally,
grant.
we helped the town with the grant, which was awarded to the town, and then we got it transferred to Nash County so that Nash County would be able to administer all three of the grants. And so this is that same grant that was awarded, I don't know, 6 months, 9 months back.
Other questions? Entertain a motion for approval. Have a motion by Commissioner Combs, is there a second? Second by Commissioner Leggett. Questions on the motion? All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by a like sign. Motion stands approved. Thank you, ma'am.
I will say, Mr. Belfield, we did have grants in Phase 1 as well. I'm not sure if you're reaching back a couple years to that, but we did have several grants in Phase 1 as well. And Golden Leaf was a partner there.
Mr. McGee, I understand we may be withdrawing item number 22. Has anything changed on that, or do I withdraw it?
We do need to withdraw that item at this time, and we're hopeful it'll come back next month if the industry's willing to proceed.
And I think it's due to the fact we hadn't got some information from the applicant or from the industry yet that we need prior to approving the resolution.
That is true.
Okay, all right, we will remove item 22 from the agenda. And thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Mr. Durham, can I just remove it like that, or do I need a motion to remove it?
I think you can remove it like that.
Okay. Item number 23 is budget amendments, and I'll call on Ms. Donna Wood to make the presentation or make the request.
Good morning.
Good morning, ma'am.
The following budget amendments are presented for the board's consideration for fiscal year 22-23. We have 9 budget amendments for consideration to be presented. Just make sure that is correct.
That's correct.
Okay. The first item I have is with the fund balance transfer. This budget amendments to budget general fund balance appropriation and transfer to another fund to cover a portion of a prior year contract payment charged to the 911 Public Safety Answering Point 911 Control Office Fund. These expenses from the prior year contract were deemed unallowable after the PSAP team reviewed the fiscal year 22 report and related details. These expenditures were allowed in years prior to fiscal year 22, however, due to setup and allowability change, it's a request of $8,798. The next item is in planning and inspections. This budget amendment is presented to appropriate inspections reserves for the implementation of new planning and inspection software. This amount includes a one-time setup fee of $50,000 and one year of annual service costs of $85,000. This upgrade implementation is considered necessary based on knowledge that the current inspection software vendors changing the support it provides to the county, as well as the existing lack of ability the current software has to modernize functions to support our citizens and our staff. So it's a request of $135,000 from fund balance, from the Planning and Inspections Reserve.
Question.
Yes,
$85,000, so it is reoccurring annually?
it is a reoccurring charge. Most of our software within, whether it's financial, tax, it has an existing cost to it every year for maintenance, for maintaining it.
Do you happen to know how that compares with the annual fee for the current software we have?
I do not. Scott, are you aware of that?
Yes, there is significantly more. We're paying about, I believe it's around $23,000 right now.
Must be significantly more services that it's going to provide us than I hope.
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right, thank you. Go ahead.
The next item is with the governing board commemorative courtyard. This budget amendment is presented to appropriate general fund balance to correct the arrangement of the commemorative courtyard to allow for ongoing additions and to maintain the professional appearance as intended. This would be a one-time cost to restructure the courtyard, an appropriation of $23,000. The next item is Cooperative Extension Farmers Market. This amendment is presented to budget additional sponsorship funds collected to be used for the upcoming regional production meeting. It's $3,022, and no county funds are required. The next item is with Senior Services. This amendment is presented to budget additional grant funds from the Home Community Care Block Grant to support senior center operations. It's $27,340, no county funds are required. Next item is with Economic Development. At the time the budget was adopted, best estimates were used to appropriate funds for the county's inducements. This budget amendment appropriates additional funding from the general fund balance required to support the actual amounts due for fiscal year '23 based on the confirmed tax payments and certified information from Pfizer and Consolidated Diesel. It's a request of $368,737. The next item is Department of Social Services. This amendment is presented to adjust federal funds available for the Low-Income Home Energy Program and Crisis Intervention and increase funds for social worker visits with eligible children in foster care and computer replacement. It's an overall decrease of $279,812, moving federal funds around, but no county funds are required. The next item is with the Asset Forfeiture Fund. This amendment is presented to budget asset forfeiture revenue received to be used for training and overtime for narcotics interdiction, informant funding for case investigations, and the purchase of a van with upfit costs for the narcotics unit. It's a request of $130,000 out of the asset forfeiture funds, so no general county funds. And the last item I have is with the workers' compensation. This amendment is presented to budget additional funds to cover workers' comp claims to the end of the fiscal year. This is a separate internal service fund, so it's a $150,000 request to cover the additional claims that we have in the current year. So no general funds, no general funds for that as well.
Questions of Ms. Wood on either of these nine?
Yeah, the amendment for participating in building for revitalization, and it's an industry, it's being occupied and used now. They plan to move out. You're getting,
Which amendment are you referring to?
I didn't understand you.
I'm not sure if I understand the question.
Oh, the first one, authorizing a resolution for reuse from the reuse building program. And you said, and I believe it said that a company is in that building now. And do they plan to stay or they're moving out before?
I think, Mr. Bellfield, you're bringing up, maybe you're talking about something in a previous item about building reuse, which was under Dorsey's report. There's no
Well, we
building
went from
reuse
one to the other.
Sir?
And we didn't say one thing or another about it, as whether we approve it or disapprove.
But we approved it.
We approved it.
This board approved it. If I'm with you, I think you're talking about the building reuse that we approved a tax refund to in a previous item for Mo DeLoach.
I'm a little
But we don't have any building reuse that we're talking about now.
I'm kind of,
He's talking about item 22.
I'm
the
kind of
taxi
confused.
Oh, he's done gone ahead of us then.
No, it was the one that was pulled.
I don't recall. If we did, it was done in another meeting, not here.
The agenda item that was removed?
Oh, is that what we talking? Okay. We actually removed that item. I'm with you now, Mr. Bellfield. I apologize. We removed that item because the industry owed Ms. McGee some more paperwork that they did not supply in time to cover today. I'm with you now, I apologize.
Yeah, I was wondering about.
We took it off the agenda.
Company, are they planning on staying or moving out, and we're gonna
No, they actually are staying, and they're doing some major improvements and spending quite a bit more money. It's down at Sharpsburg. It's the place that makes the manholes, concrete manholes, right to the left as you're going to Wilson on 301.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're planning on staying. I think we just like some paperwork to be able to properly approve it. I apologize for not keeping up with where you were. But it's been deleted from this agenda. We expect to see it later.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions? Yes, sir, Mr. Harris.
In the public interest, could you explain the governing board's commemorative courtyard improvement?
Well, I am going to get the county manager to explain what's
Right.
happening with that.
I will be glad to. Yes, Commissioner Arrington, we made the decision several years back to recognize citizens and groups that have made a significant contribution to Nash County and its citizens by creating a commemorative courtyard out in front of this building. At that time, we were taking an existing space that had concrete pavers in it and replacing those pavers with granite, stone engraved pavers to recognize these individuals. And as we are moving into our space, we are recognizing that we need to pause and do some reconstruction to ensure that as we move forward, it looks professional and appropriate for its use. And so we are asking for these funds to purchase 30 more granite pavers. Right now, we already have 5 that are engraved. 3 have been installed. There's been a holdup to install the last 2 because of this issue that we're encountering with appearance and aesthetics. So we are asking for funds to purchase 30 more granite stones, which would take us a number of years into the future with this program. And we would ask the company to come out and remove the remaining concrete pavers and install the blank granite pavers, but have them ready for future recognition of individuals.
All right, thank you.
Other questions on non-budget amendments? Ms. Wood, just a question or a comment for the record. Item number 6, when we increase the inducement amount that we are paying to these 2 entities, basically that means that they have spent more money than what we budgeted, thought they were going to spend. Therefore, their inducement has more money involved because they spent more money.
That is correct.
Okay,
That's the way our inducements work.
correct. Okay. I just want to make sure the public understood that. So that is actually a positive thing, not a negative thing. And then on item number 9, we are still 5 months out, workman's compensation. Are you out of funds now on workman's comp, and you predict that'll get us to the end, or have we may well see this again?
No, this should get us to the end. I try to anticipate and estimate what we'll need through the end of the fiscal year.
Okay. I don't know how you do that, but it's great that you can do that.
Well, I try to pull out my crystal ball and do the best that I can.
That's such a unknown item, but that's fine.
It really is.
Okay. All right, you have the 9 budget amendments. I'd entertain a motion for approval. Okay, I have a motion by Commissioner Combs. There's a second to that motion.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Arrington. Questions on either of the 9 or the amendment itself? Seeing none, all in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by a like sign. They stand approved. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Next item is board appointments, and I'll call on Scott Rogers at this time, and I think we may have one you're going to discuss, or are you going to do that later?
I'd like your permission to do a second one that's not in the agenda.
You absolutely have the board permission, sir.
Thank you. So the first one that is in your agenda is simply for informational purposes only. We have had a resignation from the planning board. The member that represents District 7, Mr. Philip Brannon, has resigned for some personal reasons, and we will need to find a replacement candidate for Mr. Brannon.
And I am working on that in my district, yes, sir.
Thank you very much. So the application that I did receive after the agenda was printed is to replace Mr. Mark Cohn on the Travel and Tourism Board. As you remember, Mr. Cohn moved away from Nash County, leaving a vacancy, and we have an application from Ms. Brenda Whitley Stallings from the Middlesex area to replace Mr. Mark Cohn.
All right, you hear that request? Entertain a motion for approval of Ms. Stallings.
Make a motion, we approve.
Have a motion by Commissioner Leggett, second by Commissioner Combs. Any questions on that motion? Seeing none, all in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by a like sign. Motion carries. Anything else, Scott?
That's all I have, thank you.
Okay. We are now on item number 25, which is commissioner comments. Anything any commissioner wishes to bring to the board?
I have a couple of things.
Sure.
First, I'd like to mention that, of course, we have our budget retreat coming up, and I know the manager will speak to that, but our next mid-month will be in May, so be giving some thought to inside and outside presentations. Second thing I wanted to do was give a shout out to North Carolina Wesleyan University, member of the USA South Conference. They just completed their regular season with a record of 13-1. They won the tournament defeating William Peace out of Raleigh. Prior to starting that tournament, they had an overall season record of 23-5. They're coached by John Thompson. I think he's a great coach, and I think more important than that, he's a fine gentleman. He's in his 28th season at North Carolina Wesleyan University, and he has distinguished himself as the all-time winningest coach in the history of the school, with well over 400 victories. The season ended with the Bishops raising 2 banners in Everett Gymnasium, the 6th NCAA tournament appearance in school history, and the 2nd winningest season in program history. I want to say congratulations to the program on a great season, and I would like to request that we send a congratulatory letter to Coach Thompson on behalf of this board, recognizing their accomplishments this year. He's got a group of fine young men, and I've seen them play many times, and I know he's very proud of those men and what they have accomplished, not only on the court, but in their personal life. So shout out to Coach Thompson and the other staff out there for a job well done.
Amen. Other commissioner comments? I'm going to be very brief on the housing report. Were you going to say something, Mr. Belfield? I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Okay.
I got a request from the Taven family for Nash County. She'll be 90 years old, April the 8th. And she has asked me to ask the commissioners for a resolution. She celebrate her 90th birthday. She was one of the pioneer 4-H when we moved 4-H out of the school into the community, and she stepped forward and she was a community leader for, I know, over 20 years. And they've asked me to ask the county for a resolution celebrating her 90th birthday on April the 8th at 2 p.m. at the Mobile Ruritan Club.
Will you work with the manager to facilitate that? Our April meeting is what date? Before April the 8th, I hope.
I believe so.
Our April meeting is the 3rd.
Third, okay. All right,
Third, yeah, we'll have another meeting before that.
we will. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
If you'll work with the manager on that.
And they would like to have it to present at their wedding, I mean, not wedding, birthday celebration, her 90th birthday celebration.
All right, we can sure work that out. Thank you, sir.
Okay, and give me the information. Okay.
All right, any other comments? Our building permits past month, we did have 55, as I mentioned earlier, over 50, but 55 new home permits in the month of February, which is, I think is really outstanding for the month of February. They were applied for by 23 different builders, so basically an average of 2 per builder. And we had $2.833 million worth of commercial permits applied for. So the housing market still appears to be pretty strong in Nash County. With that said, I'll go to the next item and turn it over to the manager for her report.
Thank you. For the month of February, for the co-responder program, there were 20 referrals from DSS and 2 referrals from the sheriff's office. All departments have been working on their budgets, putting together their operating budgets, submitting CIP, capital improvement requests, and position and reclassification requests. We're working on compiling that information, and this week we will be meeting with all departments. I believe we've got 20 meetings set up this week to meet with all of our departments. And on March the 28th and 29th, we will have our annual budget retreat with the board. That location is going to be at Smith's Pavilion in Dorchester. The address is 3713 North Halifax Road. We will plan to start each day with breakfast at 8:30, and our agenda will begin at 9. If I could just ask for our management team to be on hold for further information about when exactly we would have them join us on the agenda. We're still trying to work through that agenda, but I will be in touch with management team to let them know when we would like to have them join us for the retreat.
Start when?
Pardon me?
Start date?
8:30.
No, the date.
The 28th and 29th.
Okay.
March
All right.
28th and 29th are the dates for our retreat.
All right.
This Thursday, I'll be in Raleigh for the Risk Management Pool Board of Trustees meeting, and on the 15th of this month, Scott and I will attend the first North Carolina Eastern Regional Managers Meeting in Greenville. There has been a Western group that has been meeting for a number of years, and there have been some individuals who have really been pushing for an Eastern regional meeting for managers to get up and going. So we will have our first one in Greenville this month, and we'll report back to you about that. A reminder that our legislative dinner is scheduled for Thursday, March the 16th. That's at the Nashville Exchange at 5:30. So make sure you have that on your calendar. And then also, as the chairman mentioned in his report, we have our Citizens Academy that's going to get up and going this month. And that's all I have.
All right, any questions of the manager on her report? All right, the last item on the agenda is to call for a closed session. The closed session will be for economic development matters, matters of attorney-client privilege, and the performance of an employee. I'd entertain a motion to go into a 10-minute recess and then convene the closed session in the Commissioners' Conference Room. Entertain a motion at this time. Moved by Commissioner Combs, there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Leggett. Questions on the motion? All in favor of that motion, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by a like sign. We stand recess for 10 minutes and then conference room. Call us back into regular session at this time. During closed session, 2 items were discussed that need to be having action taken for them in open session. The first item is a refinancing agreement for Synovitech, and it involves the chairman getting authority from the board to sign a new subordination agreement. Of course, basically what that means is we have some grant money that they got that runs through the county. It's no county money involved in it, but in able to sign that subordination agreement, it does take board action. At this time, I'd entertain a motion to allow the chairman to sign the new subordination agreement with Synovitech.
Make a motion to allow the chairman to sign a new subordination agreement.
I have a motion. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Outlaw, motion by Commissioner Combs. Is the motion in proper order, Mr. Attorney?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any questions on it? All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by a like sign? Motion carries. Also, the board received a request from our school board to consider something that they wish to do, and we have crafted a motion as it relates to the stipend they receive each month, and I would call on Commissioner Leggett to make that motion at this time.
Okay. In accordance with the North Carolina General Statute 115C-38, the Nash County Board of Commissioners hereby ratifies the Nash County Board of Education's request for a salary increase from $500 a month to $800 a month beginning in July of 2023. And I offer this in the form of a motion.
I have a motion on the floor. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Outlaw. Any other questions or discussion on the motion? All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by a like sign? Motion is ratified also. Request is ratified also. Thank you. If there is no other item to come before the board, I would entertain a motion to recess this meeting until March the 16th, which will be our legislative dinner, and it will be held this year at the Nashville Exchange, 229 West Washington Street, which of course is across the street from here, and it will begin at 6 o'clock. So I'd entertain a motion for recess until that date.
So moved.
Mr. Chairman, before we do that, did you say we will be at the Nashville Exchange?
I did, sir.
Wasn't it originally scheduled for the Deutsches?
That would be the retreat, Mr. Belfield. That's later in the month. It was our budget retreat that's coming up at the end.
Oh, yeah, I know the budget retreat.
Right.
Okay.
But the legislative dinner is at the Nashville Exchange.
Okay.
Other questions? I have a motion on the floor. Who made that motion? Commissioner Wilkins did not get a second. That second to that motion?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Belfield. Any questions on that motion? All in favor of the motion to recess the meeting until that date, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by a like sign? Motion carries.